Namaskar. My name is Manish Kumar and I welcome all of you to my channel. So in Airflow series we are at the third lecture today, and in today's video I am going to talk about what is DAG. So from previous two videos I have been continuously saying DAG, but I did not explain any time what is DAG. So in today's video we are going to talk about that. Also from today's video I am going to give you some potential interview questions which might be asked during the interview. So whenever we are doing the lecture, you will have a basic understanding of, if I go through this lecture, what all things I will learn and what all things can come in the future interview sessions, right? So without further delay, let's jump to the laptop screen and see all the things in action. Alright, so we are at laptop screen now, and you can see we are at lecture 3, and these are the potential interview questions. So the first thing that is mostly asked in the interview is what is DAG, and then the next question will be what is task. Also, why do we need operator? These are the also famous questions that are being asked. Apart from that, okay, so first thing, these all questions will be asked when you have to talk about your pipeline. So that is where I have talked about how do you use Airflow in your pipeline. So basically, if you are using Airflow, then you must be using in your pipeline. So how are you utilizing Airflow in your pipeline? So that's the question that is basically asked during the interviews. So what I have done, I have created a sample pipeline which we are going to discuss in upcoming lectures, and I would highly encourage you to listen carefully whatever things I am going to explain further, because those things will definitely come handy during the all of the lectures when we are going to write codes, because that will be the base for our Airflow learning. So be more attentive whatever I say. So this is the sample data pipeline that we have, and now I'm going to show you like how we are going to do those things. So basically, in real time industry, first understand the purpose of any pipeline, why we are building this pipeline. So first I would like to talk about the purpose, right? Purpose or reason behind why this pipeline is even built. So first thing is we want to track user experience, right? We want to track the user experience. So what we have done, we have built a new page, right? We have built a new page and we already had the old page. So, and we have already deployed the changes for 5% of the user on the new page. So basically this is called progressive deployment, where we are doing some beta testing and we are trying to understand that even the thing that we have implemented, are user liking it or not. So this is one of the things that we can use here to track the user experience, and if the user experience is bad, then of course we are not going to roll out that feature. We will basically roll back to the 100% of the user will go to the old page. So those kind of things we want to track. The second thing that we have built here is we want to see the user retention, right? So what does this user retention mean here? What I'm trying to see, that let's say user is login on our website. So basically this is a website. You can consider that abc.com I have given amazon.com, right? So Amazon has a product listing page, cart page, checkout page, all the pages are there. So what we are trying to check here is if the user is searching anything on my website, like he or she is searching for any product, and if he is finding the product, is he actually adding to the cart and paying, like going to the checkout page to do the payment or not? Just he looked at the product listing page and he went he went out from there itself, or he went to the cart but he did not make the payment. So those kind of things we want to track, right? And that is where now our role will come into the picture. So till here, whatever the implementation, these are basically done by software engineer teams, right? So this is a part of software engineering, okay? And once everything is set up, now what we have to do, as a data engineer, we have to bring the data from all the pages that is basically generated. So most of the time you will see database is already present there, and from database we can either pull through CDC or we can directly go and do some incremental loading in other means. But here we are going to use API rather than any databases. So we have one API written that basically I have like we have set up in the last lecture itself, where I talked about API code, and that API code is the one that will basically used here. That's why I had asked you to do the installation through the GitHub code that I have given you, right? So we are going to use API here to pull the data from all the pages that has been listed. Okay, so what's our task? We have to bring the data to the data lake from all the pages that we have built. Okay, so this is the task that has to be done by data engineers. So we are basically responsible for pulling the data from the different pages to the data lake. Of course, this will not be a page, this will be most of the time this will be a database, and somewhere we might be using API as well, but I don't think this will be the right choice to use API here to get the data, right? And once the data is in data lake, now our next task will be to clean the data that has that we have received, because there will be hundreds of columns, but we might just be looking for 10 or 20 columns. So in that case we have to do cleaning. There will be null values. Let's say there is first name but no last name. So those kind of details are there which has to be cleaned, right? So that is where we will be doing another work, that will be cleaning. After cleaning, we will write the data to the warehouse, right? So these all part that you are seeing right now, right? These all tasks that I am highlighting in the red dashed border, right? So this box is basically done by data engineers. We will come to the point where how DAG is basically used, and I will teach you in very simplest form, and in next lecture we will be writing our first DAG as well. So don't worry, everything has its like everything will come in place when time will arrive. Okay, so this is the part of data engineer. Once we write the data back to the warehouse, now the next thing will be to generate a report where we will be seeing, okay, how many users are there on the product listing page but they did not reach out to cart page, or if they reach out to cart page but they did not reach out to checkout page, or even if they reached out to checkout page but they did not make a payment, right? So there can be hundreds of things that has to be tracked. So those tracking things will be, or those analysis will be done by data analyst or business analyst. So this is where we fit in. Now we understand, okay, this is the part of data engineer, and that is where if we are writing a pipeline, so basically for this we will make a pipeline, right? ETL pipeline. Okay, so now ETL pipeline, this is the portion where we have to write ETL pipeline, and once we are writing the ETL pipeline, we will have to orchestrate it, and we have to orchestrate it means basically we have to use Airflow. Now in the entire setup, this is where we are going to use Airflow. So the question that might be asked during the interview, how do you use Airflow, right, in your pipeline? So we can talk about, okay, this is what the thing that we have to implement, and this is how we are using it. Okay, so now we understand the pipeline, right? And what we have to do, that also has to be done. So what are the bare minimum tasks as a data engineer that we have to do in this case, particularly this case? So I'll write, okay, so bare minimum task to be done in pipeline, right? So the first thing that has to be done is we have to fetch the data using API, right? This is the first thing that I will have to do. Then after fetching the data, clean the fetched data, right? We have to do the cleaning, and then write clean data to the warehouse. I'm writing WH for warehouse here. Okay. So these are the three work that has to be done to build a pipeline, right? So let's say I am just okay, here one more thing, right? We have to do all these three tasks, but this task has to be in order, right? If I don't have the data in the data lake, then how will I do the cleaning? On which data I will be doing cleaning? So basically everything has to be done in order, first, then second, and then third, right? So can I write the same information this way, right? So basically I'll write first thing is fetch. This is the first information. After fetching the data, I have to do the second thing, that is basically a cleaning, right? And then third is warehouse, right? So these are the things that has to be done in particular order. So basically this has to be done first, then this has to be done second, and then at last this has to be completed. Till now we are good, right? Now what I have just done, right, is I created one graph. Okay, created graph here. And what is that graph? Graph consists of two things. One is node, right? Okay, rather going there. So this circle part, right, the circle part that I have done is called node, and the arrow part, like direction one, right? I'll remove this arrow, otherwise you will get confused. So this circle is node, and this arrow is called dependency, right? So here basically what we had the same information, we just rewrote the same information in a different manner. Basically I created one graph kind of setup where I am writing the task name, right? Node is basically a task, right? And this arrow is a dependency. So basically we have a task dependency, right? One after another. So this is what we have a, I can also say the same this way, right? This is a graph, right? And this graph is in directed manner, right? This graph is in directed manner. So basically I'll remove this 1 2 3 because already we have the dependency. So if I focus on this entire portion, right, you can see here, this is basically, what is this? This is a directed graph where first thing has to be done fetch, then second, after completion of fetch we have to do clean, and then, right? So this is a directed graph, one has to be done after another. And this is how we have learnt a DAG. So DAG means directed acyclic graph. Okay, DAG means directed acyclic graph. But till now we know directed graph. But what does this acyclic means? Acyclic means it cannot form a cycle. So here I'll take the same example with a smallest form, like 1 2. I'll just write 1 2 3. 1 as a, what was this? 1 as a fetch, 2 as a clean, and 3 as a warehouse, right? If 1 is completed, then 2, and then 2 is completed, 3. But I cannot do that. If 3 is completed, then again go back to 2. This we cannot do, or we cannot do after completing 3 you can go to 1, because this way if I go to this, then what will happen? 1 2 3, and then again it will come to 1, and if it is 1, then 2, then 3, and 1. So this way this will be in infinite loop, right? Or this is where we call deadlock, right? So this kind of situation does not has to be occurred. That's why we have a definite start and definite end. That is why we don't have any cycle. If the cycle is getting formed, that will give you an error that this is a cycle is getting formed, and this will not be a valid DAG. So DAG is directed or cyclic graph. So basically the same information that we had, the task that we had to do. Task means this basically the work that has to be done, right? In case of fetch, what we are going to do, we are going to write a simple Python script which will basically use the API endpoint and fetch the data, right? So the thing that we are doing is called task, and by combining all the tasks in a definite order is called a DAG, right? This is what we did now. We took a task 1, task 2 and task 3. We set a dependency, and that is called DAG, right? So now the definition will be definition of DAG, or I cannot say definition. If someone asks you in the interview that what is DAG, then you can say a collection, right? A collection of tasks, right? This is basically a collection of tasks in specific or particular order, right? Specific or particular order, right? Or we can say DAG, right? DAG is basically an entire pipeline that talks about when and how to run, right? So basically a DAG is the entire pipeline, the one that we created. This is the entire pipeline which talks about when to run and how to run. When to run and how to run. How to run is basically a task or operator that we are going to discuss in the next class as well. In next class we will see how to write a DAG, right? So in today's video we have understand what is DAG, but still you have not fully satisfied what is DAG. Basically DAG is this, yeah, but how do we write these things in code, and how does this get implemented on the Airflow servers, right? So that is where we would need at least 2 videos to understand completely about DAG. But yeah, on theoretical, like every time we are talking about theory, but when we write the code, it gets more clearer, right? And that is where we would be need at least 1 lecture. In next lecture we are definitely going to write our first DAG, and DAG is basically again a list of tasks that we are going to write in the next video. Also at last line I wrote when and how to run, that also has to be written in DAG. So this is what DAG means. Now the next question was what is task, right? So task is a single unit of work, right? We can say a single unit of work. That's it. So I think we are done for today's video. But one more thing, one more thing that has to be come in your mind, or it might not have come, but we will discuss. So you might be thinking, if first has to run, then second has to run, right? And then third has to run. Then why can't I just write a sequential code, right? I'll just write a for loop and that should work, right? That will also work. Like I'll write 3 methods, one method for fetching the data, one method for cleaning the data, another method, and I'll call one after another. That will also work. Then what is the advantage of using Airflow and all this extra overhead? Why are we doing it, right? So the first thing that sequential will not give you is the parallel computation, right? So currently in our example we are seeing how many? We are seeing just 3 pages are here. But what if we have, and in also these 3 pages we have to pull the data. Let's say one page takes 10 seconds, right? And I have 50 pages to pull the data from. If I use the sequential code, how much time it will take? 50 into 10 per page, right? So 500 second. 500 second is basically 8 minutes, somewhere around 8 minutes 20 seconds. And if I do the same in the parallel computation, I can run all the 50 parallel tasks in one go, right? And we can pull the data. So that is where parallel computation can be done through, I would say, graph based approach, because we have went through the graph based approach. So graph based approach will give this advantage. And the second advantage, or I would say more important advantage in case of failure, right? Let's say, right? Let's say first job passed, but second job failed today, right? Now, if I am going for the sequential code, I will have to again start everything from starting, right? But when we are using Airflow here and graph based approach, especially graph based approach, why graph based approach? I would rather not say Airflow, graph based approach. Here, directly I can clean, right? I can clean the state of this task instance. Basically, task instance will talk in the, I think after 3-4 lecture. We will clear this task instance and we will run again. And of course, after fixing some of the things that was giving the issue, right? So the next time I can run from here itself. So I don't need to run this step 1, and we are saving all the storage cost, recalculation cost, so everything, and time as well. So we are saving everywhere, resources, time, money, time and money, yeah, both we are saving it. So that's why this is another thing that will help us when we are going for graph based approach. So these are the two advantages that we are seeing here over the sequential code, right? So I think we have talked about everything, but I will again stress the point here that understand the why we are creating this sample data pipeline, how things are happening here, because from next class or next to next, not next to next, after 2 lecture, we are definitely going to use all of this information to create a DAG, which will basically mimic our entire pipeline and do the task that has to be done. And that is how we are going to understand Airflow in much more better manner. So I think we are done for today's video. Yeah, of course, I have not talked about operator. I'll talk about in the next lecture a little bit, and then after that we will be talking about operator in great detail, and we will be building even our own custom operator. That also has to be done, but that will come after, I think, 12-15 lectures. So yeah, in today's video we are done, and we will meet in the next video. Till then, bye bye.